Hello. Welcome to Rise and Bust. In today's episode, we will see another rise and bust story. We will analyze how it rose to glitter success, and then we will understand the mistakes that led to its downfall. And just to let you know, we post well-analyzed and real rise and fall stories. Stories of companies and people that once ruled the world, but then busted for small mistakes or series of mistakes. If you are interested in similar stories, then do not forget to hit the subscribe button. Now relax and enjoy the story and let us know in the comments what you learned today.
The automobile company General Motors, once a symbol of American industrial might, has experienced a dramatic rise and fall over its century-long history. From revolutionizing the automobile industry with cutting-edge luxury vehicles to dominating the global market, GM's impact on America and the world has been immense. Like many giant companies, a series of poor decisions and mismanagement ultimately led to its downfall and eventual bankruptcy filing. The rise and fall of General Motors is a tale of innovation, ambition, and, finally, the consequence of hubris. Chapter 1. The birth of GM. The origin of General Motors can be traced back to 1886. That year, a guy named William Crapo Durant, who would soon become a partner in an emerging insurance agency, chose to enter the auto industry. With borrowed money, he purchased a small horse-drawn carriage firm. All he had at the time was a design patent and 2 completed carts. Very shortly after, Durant took one of the carts to an exhibition, and right away, he obtained a Blue Ribbon Award. He arrived home with a demand for over 600 carts without having sold or even built a single one. By the beginning of 1900, U.S. purchasers could choose from a range of motor vehicle brands. To keep the title of the vehicle city, Flint had to attract the motor industry. James Whiting, associated with Flint Wagon Works, purchased Buick to help the city and rescue the company from financial distress. However, he required the assistance of a capable young entrepreneur to take control. This is where Durant came in. At first, he was a bit skeptical. He thought automobiles were nothing more than loud, dangerous machines that scared both people and horses alike. However, he agreed to give it a chance. Durant took the car for a test drive and drove it for a few months on various roads. As he got to know the vehicle better, he was increasingly impressed by its capabilities. He was so taken with the car that by 1904, he had taken over the management of Buick. From that day forward, he dedicated himself to making automobiles more accessible and reliable. One evening in 1907, Durant was contacted via telephone regarding a massive automobile consolidation arranged by financier J.P. Morgan. A few weeks later, Durant convened with 3 other automotive industry leaders in his Pontchartrain hotel quarters for a meeting. This gathering included Henry Ford, Ben Briscoe from Maxwell Briscoe, and Ransom Olds from REO. The negotiations broke when Ford declared that he desired cash instead of shares. All parties abandoned the failing venture, except for Durant, who believed consolidation was necessary. Durant had a backup plan. He was aware that Oldsmobile was facing difficulties. He boarded a nighttime train to Lansing, Michigan, woke up Oldsmobile's executives, and suggested establishing a holding firm named General Motors that would encompass Buick and Oldsmobile. They consented, and General Motors was officially launched on September 16, 1908. In reality, Durant almost acquired Ford in 1909. After bringing GM back to stability, he convinced Henry Ford to sell the company for $8 million. However, the bank's loan department declined the offer. If Durant had possessed the necessary funds, Ford would have become a subsidiary of GM. Chapter 2. Major success. Durant was known to be very soft-spoken and charismatic, which helped him gain admiration as an impressive salesman and, later, a very successful businessperson. At the beginning of 1909, Durant was eager to make a significant move. He had set his sights on acquiring several of America's top and most successful automobile companies. Additionally, he was eager to invest in new companies just starting and curious about what patents, products, and innovations they might offer. Durant wrote that if he figured out how to acquire some other companies like Buick, he would be able to establish control of the most significant industry in the country. Within just a year and a half of GM's formation, Durant acquired 22 firms of various types. Some were unsuccessful due to substantial liabilities, but others proved valuable, including Oakland, later Pontiac, GMC, Cadillac, McLaughlin, GM Canada, Buick, Oldsmobile. While U.S. banks considered cars a fleeting trend, Durant envisioned the automotive industry as more extensive. He thought it was the most significant industry in the country. When he forecasted that 500,000 vehicles would be produced and sold annually in the future, the bankers regarded his prediction as insane of their opinions. Durant was confident in his conviction, which helped the company succeed. During these years, he tried to meet their customers' needs and wants. A man named Alfred P. Sloan was Durant's successor when he decided to sell the business to him in 1914. While he was president, he spent all his time transforming it into the leader of the U.S. auto market. Rough the 1920s and early 1930s, Motors expanded with overseas assets, such as Opel and Vauxhall, and bought the firm that would eventually become GMC Trucks. In 1931, the company could be considered the largest auto conglomerate. GM contributed over $12 billion worth of goods to the Allies during World War II, which included aircraft, trucks, and tanks. By 1942, GM's entire production was going toward the war effort. Following the war, the firm introduced innovations like individual front-wheel suspensions, a unified body design, and a single steel roof piece. During the fabulous 50s, the 1949 Buick Roadmaster, Chevrolet Corvette, and Bel Air, as well as the 1959 Cadillac El Dorado, contributed to defining the aesthetic of automobile design during that time, often referred to as the car design's golden era. In the 1950s, GM brand names were 1 out of every 2 vehicles sold in the U.S. This explains very well how influential the company was. In 1971, General Motors was a trailblazer in implementing engines that could operate on low-lead or unleaded gasoline. 2 years later, it became the first automaker to provide a vehicle equipped with an airbag. A brief period after, they introduced the catalytic converter to lower emissions. The company played a crucial role in the guidance and navigation system for the historic first moon landing on Apollo 11. Their people also crafted the lunar roving vehicle for the Apollo 15 mission, the initial automobile traversing the lunar surface. How significant is that? Chapter 3. Success Strategies. Let's mention the 2 main strategies incorporated into the business that contributed to MG's success: vertical integration and model differentiation. Vertical integration involves an organization developing its operations broadly, ruling each step of the supply process, ranging from procurement of raw supplies to delivery of the finished product. GM used vertical integration to raise efficacy and decrease expenses. They had ownership of a few different part manufacturers, allowing them to assure quality and keep costs down for the components recommended in their cars. GM also commanded its vendors, which provided them enhanced authority regarding the consumer end of their activity. By implementing this tactic, they could exercise greater oversight over their actions, becoming less reliant upon third-party providers and possibly cutting down their expenses. Model differentiation is an advertising tactic that firms use to attain a more extensive consumer demographic by providing multiple product models. During the 1990s, GM sought to grow its customer base and drive sales by utilizing the method of model differentiation. The company offered a variety of car types, including trucks, cars, and sport utility vehicles, each with distinct boasting capabilities, aesthetics, and prices. This allowed GM to serve all patrons, including those seeking economic items and those who prefer luxurious automobiles. For instance, GM's Chevrolet division offered models like Cavalier and Beretta, which were more essential and more premium, fancier models like the Corvette or Camaro. The company's Cadillac division included luxury cars like Fleetwood and the DeVille. Chapter 4. Decline. Unfortunately, after so many years of accomplishments, General Motors started to decline in the 1970s. This was due to a combination of factors, but the biggest ones were the rising fuel prices and the rising competition. The oil prices during that time started to skyrocket unexpectedly. They increased from $1 a barrel to an unbelievable $18 a barrel during the 70s. Logically, gas prices also rose to $1 per gallon. Previously it was just 12 cents for a whole gallon. This meant that consumers started looking for alternatives and buying more fuel-efficient cars. Meanwhile, GM was still producing huge, 8-cylinder engine vehicles because they thought that this way, their profits would be higher. This way, GM started to lose its marketplace to other foreign competitors, mainly Japanese auto companies, such as Toyota. The Japanese companies understood well the shift in consumer demand. They would accept a low profit margin and then invest that money into improving the quality of their products. GM did not figure out how to profit while selling smaller cars at lower prices. GM was also facing increasing pressure from government regulations regarding emissions and safety standards, which led to increased costs and decreased profitability. The company's rigid management structure and resistance to change further exacerbated the decline. General Motors' decline continued in the 1980s. During these years, GM made a strategic mistake by expanding into unrelated industries, such as data companies and Hughes Aircraft, which led to financial losses and a lack of focus on its core automotive business. In the 1990s, more competition from other automakers and the costs of modernizing its operations caught up with the company, causing further losses. Despite strong consumer demand for SUVs in the early 2000s, rising fuel prices and debt pushed the company and many other automakers toward bankruptcy. In 2008, it lost its status as the world's largest car company to Toyota, and in 2009, the company filed for bankruptcy with over $100 billion in debt. To help the company recover, the federal government provided emergency funds through a controversial financial bailout. The government's intervention sparked debate over the appropriateness of the bailout and the eventual loss of over $11 billion by the government. Despite this, it is argued that the bailout saved jobs and the industry, and after restructuring, GM emerged from bankruptcy and continued operations. During these first years of the 2020s, GM remains heavily reliant on truck and SUV sales, while the overall auto sector has seen declining sales. The markets have not regained trust for automakers, and GM's shares trade at a low valuation relative to earnings, which is typical for most car companies outside of Tesla. The future success of GM and the overall auto sector will be closely tied to the strength of the U.S. economy. By offering a diverse product lineup, GM was able to attract and retain a more extensive customer base, which helped to increase sales and market share. Model differentiation remains a crucial aspect of the company's strategy today. Chapter 5. Lessons to learn from the rise and fall of General Motors. GM was once a dominant player in the automobile industry, introducing many groundbreaking technologies and designs. Later, the company faced numerous difficulties, such as tough competition, escalating expenses, declining consumer interest in traditional cars, and ultimately, financial difficulties that resulted in bankruptcy. The government's bailout of GM remains a point of debate, with some considering it a waste of resources while others believe it was crucial in preserving jobs and the industry. Regardless, GM emerged from bankruptcy and continues to operate, with a strong emphasis on the sales of trucks and SUVs and ongoing research in electric vehicles. The significance of GM cannot be ignored, as it has played a crucial role in shaping the automotive sector and providing transportation for countless individuals.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. You can also visit our website riseandbust.com for more videos and stories like this.